Listen to me, oh, yeah. Every people are tired, oh, yeah. Every people, we are tired, oh. Every people, listen to me, oh. Make the righteous in 40, oh. For your future, for generation to generation. Make the righteous in 40, oh. The people be with you, oh. We were telling them we don't believe. The people be with you, oh. We were telling them we don't believe. The people be with you. We're telling them we not the people just be we will we were telling them we not people that listen to give me your ears.
So sorry.
Yeah. Look at Guinea, look at Togo, look at Benin, look at Senegal. La people, the older, the poorer, the country to get here, don't say the don't pack. For the teacher, you see for the trace, they say the politics. For the AC car to the AC office, see what's on pay out the pocket cheese. That's really not limited to Kazele. For hand to budget, we're looking for it. The Congo suppressing the native, the 80, the girl out of 18. Before war, but the 12 is stupid. I beg you, I do, don't get on back here. Bongo reach to fusion 2030. Liberia, your vote is a power. Take note, the vote is a power. Let's say Liberia.
So, let me welcome you back. We sincerely apologize. It's some technical problem. I don't know I have no idea where it came from, but I was just kicked out of the last broadcast. But I think somebody said it last time when the viewers are too many. I don't know. All right. Everybody can be plenty. I didn't mean it's suffering me. I'm feeling it. So I will stick them true. The people be with the people just be we well, we were telling them we not believe. Representative, senator, minister, president, I'm ready suffering us today. Oh, I love you, the people, I can see, Liberians suffering, Liberians. Liberian people suffering, Liberians today. We see it, we don't do it until people's life. At the end of the month, no salary. Security day and not rest in the last day of people's life. At the end of the month, no salary. The simple US coming from, and the simple the people carrying the US dollar.
Just in the market.
People just feel with well,
We're telling my baby.
we're telling us.
Check it. See, long as the kids together, we can move on.
Yes.
No matter what just united, we can hold on. Of course, move on is not to move on. There is no development that we can boast of. Educating a fellow man, job for reaches.
Yeah.
Crossing the farm, invest a lot of hitches. Not because you want to take, you want children, never escape, no unity. We die in poverty, yeah, no attention for the disability. Forget the war, being sorry and all that. Now that we stand divided, we go fall flat. Yeah, now we go fall flat. Now a woman will go on that, till he won't call. Look at that. Now a woman will go on that, till he won't call. Yeah. They increase the price of the suffering in my city. They increase the price of the suffering in my city. I say, oh yeah, it's over. I say, Lord, they increase the price of the suffering in my city.
They're coming again, they're coming to fool us. We're telling us, we will not Nigeria is the wonder who we have. Nowhere to go, nowhere to run. Nigerians, let us stop corruption to rebuild our great nation. Nigerians don't be international from the death of our problems. Our problems is ourselves. Liberian suffering, Liberian today. We see it, we not do without you. Shoot your mom, that's the trouble. Bag of money, you're the boss, listen to me. Oh, hey. Liberian people are tired. Oh, Liberian people, we are tired. Liberian people, listen to me. Oh, let the righteous in front of you. For your future, for generation to generation, let the righteous in front of you. The people be with you. We were telling us we not believe. The people be with you. We were telling us we not believe. The people be with you. The people that we will we were telling us we not believe.
Or people in the list, you give me your ears. Amen. Take off, yeah. Look at Guinea, look at Togo, look at Benin, look at Senegal. La people, the older, the poorer, the country to get here, don't say the don't pass. But the children, you see politics, they say the politics. From the AC car to the AC office. See what's on pay at the pocket cheese. That's really not little tape and to case delay. For hand to budget, we're looking for it. We're looking for it. The Congo suppressing the native. In the 80, the girl out of 18. For war, but the 12 to be stupid. I beg you, I ain't too drunk, you're back here. Uncle reach to future 2030. I be where your vote is a power. Take note, the vote is a power.
Let's tell Liberia, now every mirror, so everybody can be plenty to eat your own. Don't fall for rest, don't fall for money, fall for your future, fall for Liberia. And you know, this is LRB Black Diamond, alongside with Max Kpakio. Just in the market.
All right. We do sincerely apologize. First of all, we had a break. We had a break in transmission, and we have to get out and come back on. We do sincerely apologize. Let's see. Find it difficult to get our studio guests. Let's see. Let's try again. have no idea where this problem is coming from. But
Oh, Jody, what shall we do? Since John,
What shall we do?
oh, Jody, what shall we do? Since John,
all right, however, we are back on the Max K Talk Show.
oh, Jody,
Just trying to establish contact now with our studio guest, Councillor Jerome J. Verdier Jr.,
you know what to say.
former TRC Commissioner of the Republic of Liberia. Once again, we say sorry
You know what to
for the break in transmission,
say.
and we have to come back on.
Vaja baba taba mole pasi na rarabo.
All right, I think Councillor, let's just go to the Skype. Please call me via the Skype.
Yeah.
This one isn't working. Let's please call me on Skype so we can go ahead.
Oh, Jody, what shall we do? Since John,
All right, I'm calling you now. All right. Yeah, probably if you can lower your volume down a bit or mute it.
I'm here, Max. I'm with you on Skype.
Yeah, I'm still getting feedback. You need to mute your.
I'm with you on Skype.
Yeah, I know. I think you need to mute the receiver.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're getting feedback. Right, perfect. Yeah. I think it's all right, ladies and gentlemen. I think I'll stay here myself. So, Mr. Councillor, I'll stay here myself. So, the feedback will not be too great. All right, I think it's all right. It's cool. So long you can hear me now, then I think it's good. You can hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you perfectly well.
All right, wonderful. Councillor, welcome. Technology is been giving you a really tough time. Good afternoon and welcome. It's great to have you on the Max K Talk Show, sir.
Yes, my brother, thank you. It's a pleasure to join you and the rest of the world in blessing your wonderful show that is advocating for justice in our country. I believe it's a very worthy initiative, and I must commend you for doing this.
Thank you very much. I think we'll do it this way. We also have you projected from Skype, so at least others can have the opportunity to see you as well. Not to see me this time around, but they'll only be seeing you. So, but stay good. But it's great. How are you, sir? How are you doing, Councillor?
Thank you. I'm doing well. Very well, as you say. My family is okay. We miss home, but we are glad to be alive. We thank God for that.
If you say you miss home, you miss Liberia?
Oh yes. If I was in Liberia, there are a lot of things I would be doing that I am not doing now. Things are going wrong. I would like to be actively involved in the process of guaranteeing our young democracy. The several campaigns that are ongoing for justice, I would have loved to be on the ground in the front line. And then there are friends, colleagues who are back there that I've left behind, family, so yes. But I'm happy that I'm out and alive.
And Councillor, first of all, let's start up by at least trying to know you a little bit, because myself, I heard his name long time ago, but I've been wondering who is this Councillor Jerome Verdier. At the TRC, I heard the name, I came across the name in the document, and I kept wondering. And so with this opportunity today, and so many people already here with us as well, let's get to know Councillor Jerome Verdier. Where did it all start? Liberia or in the diaspora?
Well, I'm a very good Liberian, to speak. I don't know why I chose to say good, but I'm one citizen who believes in that country, and I believe the country has a future, and we are yet to discover the true purpose of Liberia. And until we do that, we will continue to go in cycles, and the vicious cycles is continuing in the absence of justice. I was born in Lufa County, and after I was born, my family moved to Monrovia, and I lived all my life in Looking Town. And when I speak of missing home, the representative who just passed, Adolph Lawrence, we grew up in Looking Town together. I would have loved to participate in his funeral ceremonies. My mom's body was taken from the US to Liberia and buried. I could not have gone home. I missed that. So I grew up in Looking Town, and I am a very humbled person, humbled by my environment. I grew up in Looking Town. My family provided everything for us, but I lived to see the conditions under which my fellow Liberians, my neighbors, and others lived in. And it humbled me that I was privileged to an extent. And my father died very early, when I was just 13. And my mom said, when it was time for me to go to high school, which high school do you want to go? You have a choice between Verdier, Harris. So I said, well, why Verdier and Verdier Harris? She said, they teach business education, so when you get out of high school, you can have some skills that can carry you on. And I said, but Tottenham High also teaches business education. Tottenham High has a vocational program. She said, yes, that's true. I said, well, then I would prefer to go to Tottenham High. And in fact, she included CWA on the choice list. I said, I would prefer to go to Tottenham High rather than to any of the other schools.
All right.
Yeah, so I went to Tottenham High School. And Tottenham High was a very good school. But the realities of what was happening in Monrovia was very clear to us. And I left Tottenham High and went to the University of Liberia with that experience, with that background. And then my knowledge of Christ, my belief in the Bible, has solidified my position in justice and strengthened me to be the kind of person that I am, a Christian, a born-again Christian. And so I've lived a very humbled, but patriotic life, humble but very astute life, believing in integrity and all the things of good governance that we know that are good for a country and its people. So that's how I have come. And then I was involved very actively in student politics at the University of Liberia.
All right, okay.
I'm a veteran of the Student Unification Party. I was the Secretary General of the party and the Secretary General of the party's government at the same time. I held those dual posts years. It was a serious challenge, but I lived up to it, and I don't think any other person have managed to hold those positions. So while in Soup, then there was the coup, and the military government decided to challenge students. And under that pressure, we were constantly arrested and taken to court. But as God will have it, I was never arrested. There was a time the entire student government was arrested, and I was Secretary General. I wasn't arrested. So I led the underground movement until the ban on politics was lifted.
Okay.
So there were not many lawyers prepared to represent students. It was becoming very risky and life-threatening. So finally, when they ran out all of our leaders, besides me, we had to find lawyers. We went from lawyer to lawyer. No lawyer would take up our case against the government.
So which administration are you talking about?
Samuel Doe.
Okay.
So I met the lawyer called Tiawan Gongolo. And Tiawan was very tired and overworked. And I said to him, but Counselor, you are the only one who can do this for us now. He said, but I'm tired. I said, then you are letting down the entire student community. And you passed through this before, so please do this one last thing for us, because the military government is threatening execution. He said, okay, I will do my best. And it was at that moment that I committed to myself and God that I will study law.
Wow.
So that whenever people under those circumstances who come in conflict with God because of their beliefs or because they represent civil society or the struggling members of society, I will be available to render my service. So that's how the idea of going to law school and becoming an advocate for justice and peace started.
Wow.
So that's how I ended up in law school. I went to law school and became the kind of person that I am.
So the career choice, for that matter, wasn't influenced by mom and dad also, or any family member? It was something you just, because of those reasons that you set out, that's why you decided to take on the career?
Yes, I did accounting and economics in college. And at that time, I wasn't planning to go to law school until I had that encounter when my colleagues were rounded up in jail and we couldn't get lawyers to represent them. And when I went to Tiawan Gongolo, he was willing, but he was exhausted. He was the most active. Yeah, we say activist lawyer. He was the #1 activist lawyer at the time. And then I realized that we needed more activist lawyers and there was a shortage. So my contribution will be well needed when I become a lawyer. And that is why in those areas I rendered free legal services to students, journalists, and by the coming conflict with the law. Or anybody for that matter who is poor and cannot afford legal service because they don't have. When they come to me, I render free legal service because I feel that's a right, and our governments are very suppressive, and those kinds of government have to have people who are strong enough to stand up to them.
Mm-hmm. So, if you may, if you can help us in this, do we have a system, a legal aid system in Liberia? All right, we're losing a contact. We're losing a contact connection there with Councillor Jerome J. Verdier. Councillor is our studio guest. He is the former chairman of the Truth and Reconciliation of the Republic of Liberia, Councillor Jerome J. Verdier Jr. We just losing connection according to there's a poor internet connection. That's the result we get in there. And so we have to let's see whether we can reconnect with him. We'll have the councillor here, God's willing, for a length of time on the show. We can have lots of issues to discuss as well. Let's see whether we can go back to the councillor to get him back on. Let's see if we can get him back on. Let's see, we're just trying to tell us his story as to how he got into law, what prompted him to venture into law. I thought it was a career choice that actually was influenced by the parents, especially those days. If you come from a wealthy family, they would tell you which career you should choose before they can pay your school fees or so. They would tell you that I want you to become a nurse. I want you to go to study medicine so you can become a doctor. But in his case, it was quite the opposite. And so let's see. We're still trying to get the councillor back. We have no there. I think according to the information here from Skype is due to poor internet connectivity. So let's take a short musical break and see whether we'll be able to get the councillor from the other end as well. But you tune to the Max K Talk Show, and we have with us today, by the grace of God, we'll have it back, Councillor Jerome J. Verdier. He is a junior, let me put a junior there. He is the former chairman of the TRC Commission, that's the Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
Oh, Daddy, what shall we do?
What shall we do?
What shall we do?
All right, let me see. Welcome back to the Max K Talk Show. We do sincerely apologize. It's due to our power failure. Where my guess is internet problem there. So, but we still trying for him to come back. So don't go away, please. Please share the video as well. Councillor Jerome J. Verdier Jr. is in the house, former TRC chairman. So let's invite other people to come so we can have a great talk here. Okay, we're just about getting to know him actually, because sometimes well, in most instances if you have a guest on your platform, you need to know who they are. Even if I know the person personally, but my guests or my followers or listeners wouldn't know the person. So that's why we always ask them to introduce themselves, so at least we all can be acquainted with them. So just a couple of minutes, then he will join us shortly. Okay, Mr. King, I think every one of us that are, everybody who is watching right now, once we write anything on the platform, the rest of all will actually read it. So those information that you put in there, actually they are being consumed by those of us that are watching live right now. So it's great to be here. Let's go back to Lofa County, where we await today coming back of our studio guest. All right, just this one, just a quick information. Comes the 5th of April. That's next week, Friday. Those of you that are in Liberia already, we just want to remind you that on the 5th of April, we will be in Monrovia and we'll be marching for justice. And we will be out there as well, making a case for the establishment of War and Economic Crimes Code for Liberia or the full implementation of the TRSC recommendations. We'll be there representing our people that killed during the war, the 250,000 people or so. Those people are the ones we will be representing on the 5th of April. And so we call upon you, especially if you are in Liberia, those of you that are in Liberia right now and watching, please encourage your friends, your relatives, your family member, come along that day. Let's meet at the Centennial Memorial Pavilion on Ashmont Street at 8 o'clock in the morning on Friday next week. That is about a week today, because today is Friday, next week. Please come out. Let's come out in masses. It's going to be a peaceful march. We just moved from one point to another in presenting our statement, our petition statement, lobbying and calling on the international community, lobbying and calling on the CDC-led government to support the call for the establishment of War and Economic Crimes Code for Liberia, and of course the full implementation of the TRSC report and recommendations. We are going to be there peacefully, from one point to another. There will be teachers available for that day on a first come, first serve basis. So you come early on Thursday, on next week Friday. Just come early at the Centennial Memorial Pavilion, and you will get your T-shirt. You will get your T-shirt to join the march. Let's see whether we can re-establish contact with our studio guests. All right, I think we got the counselor back. Perfect. If you carry the video, if you carry, yes, image a little bit, but that's the.
Yes, I'm back.
It's the we still have to appreciate it anyway. Technology, we still have to appreciate it one way or another. Yeah. Welcome back, Honorable. It's good that at least it's a very perfect time for you on that at the other end. So it's good that you are back as well. Thank God. Let's hope we're going to have you on for the rest of the time without any interruption as well. But Councillor, you were just telling us about your career, the career choice as well and things. But let me go back in your own home and ask you, because for the benefit of some of us listening, for our children and things. I mean, how was it like? I mean, in a home you were being brought up, in terms of encouragement for education and everything. How was it like?
Well, my father was a teacher and my mother was a nurse. And those days, and even now, you can imagine what it was. Both parents had to do more than one job. My father was a teacher, and at the same time, he was a custom broker. And my mother was a nurse. She worked at JFK, Catholic, maternity center, multiple jobs to keep the family growing.
Councillor, can I please interrupt? To just maybe push your camera a little bit forward. Because yeah, the image is bringing you too closer to me.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty perfect from there. Cool. Okay, I want the people to see you good and for also see you good. All right. Yeah.
So, like I said, my parents did multiple jobs to keep the family afloat. We didn't have to live in a rented home. We had our own home. And so my parents were able to have all of us in school. In our immediate neighborhood was a very big ghetto where drugs were sold, where gambling was very rampant. And we were the only ones who went to high school. I mean, it was by God's grace and the fact that my parents knew the value of education, and they brought a lot of pressure on us. In my case, for example, I used to go to 2 schools because my mom wanted to keep me busy and not to get muddled in the things of the community. So I would go to school in the morning, and when that morning school is over, I change my uniform, and I go to afternoon school. I went to a private school in the morning, and I went to Boswen. In Boswen Elementary Junior High on Jamaica Road. Okay, so that's how it was, and I didn't feel good that my people around me were not educated. I was not going to school. So even at Tottenham High, we managed to help some of our brothers with school fees to be able to go to school. And as we came out of college and all of that, we went back in the community and still saw some of our struggling brothers. We encouraged them to go back to school, and some of them went back to school, completed college. We employed some of them in the places where we were working, and those who were still willing to pick up their straps, their bootstraps, and move forward, yes, they have managed to do that. So that's how it was. I have brothers and sisters. We were 6. 2 sisters and 4 brothers we were. That's how large my family was. And it was a very close family. We stuck together. Our father died in 1980. Our mom just died 3 years ago.
Wow, sorry.
Yeah, so you can imagine what it was for a single mother, raising up very young children. But all of that exposed us to the nature of our society, exposed us to what injustices and human suffering and poverty was, even though we didn't live below the poverty belt, but we experienced it from our environment. And then, on becoming a Christian, we realized that that's not what God has planned for us. Corruption is an evil. It's an evil from the devil himself. Yes, and so we were inspired to resist corruption, suppression, and the predatory nature of our state, where government officials, those in government, feel everything belongs to them, and so they should eat everything. And they care less about us who are not in government. That's not the purpose of government. The purpose of government is for those in government to serve us. We need servant leaders, servant leadership, not to lord over us and think that everything government is for them. Even their salaries are being paid by us, so they work for us. They are not our lords, our kings, and our gods, no. But they get to power, and it's all out of ignorance and stupidity that people get to power, and they think that the government or the country or the people work for them and belongs to them. Our advocates say, I pity them because they don't know. They don't know what they are doing. They are ignorant, they are stupid, and they are greedy and evil at heart. That is why Africa is the way it is. That is why Liberia is the way it is. But my eyes are open. I have seen the truth, and a lot of you have seen the truth. That's why advocacy is good. That's why we want to see things change, because that's not the way it should be.
Councillor, what's up with the 14 years Civil War? Where were you? Liberia or in exile? How soon did you leave, or did you stay there throughout?
From 1979 until the peace agreement was signed, I was in Liberia.
Wow.
I saw all the conflicts in that country. Everyone. I went through all of them. There were near misses. Many times I should have died, but God preserved my life during the war. And if we have time, I can narrate from one situation to another how I came close to die. But God has been good. I was in Looking Town up to the time Prince Johnson took over. And everything that Warren Fashions did there, I saw it. I was there, Sawyer came and took over. I was there, the interim government came and took over. There was an instance the rebels almost killed us. I say us because at that time, Kofi Woods was in Looking Town also. My brother James Verdier, who was the chairman of the Elections Commission, was also in Looking Town at the time. In fact, it was that incident that led him to leave the country. And then there was another brother who has died during the course of the war. There was this heavy fighting between Prince Johnson's men and members of the armed forces of Liberia. For 1 week, 5 to 6 days, we were in our house. We couldn't come outside because there was shooting all around. So when the shooting subsided, we decided to open our doors and go and walk around and see what's happening. And yes, there were dead bodies all around the street.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. We passed through, we braved the location. We went as far as Stockton Bridge, Caldwell, walking from Looking Town that far. And then the rebels saw us. They said, "You guys are on reconnaissance." We said, "No, we are not on reconnaissance. We're walking around." 4 of them, they said, "No, you must be government soldiers. We have killed everybody. Where are you coming from if you're walking around to look for anybody?" So we've been hiding since the fighting, so we want to take fresh air and see what is happening around us.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we say you are on reconnaissance. And they said, "Give us 6 feet." When the rebels tell you, "Give me 6 feet," they are preparing to execute you.
Mm-hmm.
Then they look at us and thought that the sneakers, the jeans, and the belt was good. Undress yourself. They wanted our belts. They wanted our watches. So Kofi Wu said, "Well, yes, my watch." The guy took the watch. Then he started taking the watches from every one of us. Then he said, "Undress, 6 feet." And we delayed for a while. Then his other 3 police came and said, "You heard the order, 6 feet." And just at that instant, there was a red truck that was passing and they captured their attention. So they abandoned their post to run behind the truck, to stop the truck, to drop some rice there for them. And you can imagine what happened. They say food helped the body, right?
Mm-hmm.
We took off and we ran for our lives. And that was just one of several incidences. But Kofi left, my brother left, I didn't leave. That incident worried my brother a lot. He wanted to leave. And then we went to the free port of Monrovia to look for food. And the warehouse we were hustling in, so to speak, was gutted with fire. My brother got out, I got out, and one of our close friends who used to work at the Ministry of Finance, he didn't make it and he died in that fire. It was that day my brother decided that he would leave. He went to the free port and got on that ship to leave. And I said, "No, I will stay and see the end of this war."
Wow.
That was my encouragement.
Wow.
It must have been God who was inspiring me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And with all the challenges, the different threats, the near misses, rebels seeing people in the street looking for rights and they kind of open fire amongst everybody. You're standing at a nightclub and then the truck comes, rebel trucks, they see two of their soldiers there, they arrest their soldiers and they shoot all the people who are sitting around the soldiers.
Yeah.
So many bloodshed, so many executions, but I was still determined to stay. And so as a result of that, I stayed through and never left Liberia. I only left Liberia when there was a ceasefire. I went for a conference in Nigeria. I came back. When there was a ceasefire, I went for a conference in Ghana, and I came back. And that was it. I saw all the interim governments. There were offers of jobs. I didn't take any of them. I went into civil advocacy. I went into teaching. I taught at the AGM school on the old road. I started teaching at that school. So my schools opened and then I went back to the university. But yes, it was a warfare experience. I've seen and experienced everything about Liberia. And then the TRC was even a greater opportunity. We went around the country. As I tell people, I've gone into the belly of Liberia and come out.
You know, before we come to that, I really want you to improve our the camera settings at least, because for now we just only see a portion of your head and.
I was bending over Cyrus.
Yeah, we want to at least see a little bit.
I'll call you back.
Much more of your image.
Okay. Let me try and adjust it better.
Okay, that's perfect. Now, before we come to that, first of all, let me start off with your job, the job you end up having as the chair of this big responsibility, the TRC. Before then, what was the relationship between you and Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf? Because this was not an elected post; it was an appointed position. So, meaning, either a recommendation must have been made, or due to somebody knowing you personally and relationship is there. What was it like?
It's a good question. I will start by saying Ellen was out of the country. She didn't experience the war. So when she came back to Liberia, I was there, already in place. A lot of things happened during the peace process. I got involved with civil society. I have to organize one or two. We had a civil society organization called Liberia Democracy Watch. We did civic education. And then we had the Human Rights Center, because we saw the need to bring about 11 different NGOs together. And I became the chairman of that consortium. And then there was an occasion where the interim government, in trying to live out the meaning of the Accra Peace Agreement, decided to constitute its own TRC. So we who were there, we said, no, we don't think that's how it should be. It shouldn't be a government-driven process. It should be an independent process. And civil society should have a voice in it. So we opposed the government.
Right.
Ezekiel Pachibo is a notable name. Alfred Brannell is another notable name. Blamosie is another notable name. The four of us got together and said, no, this cannot be. We opposed the government. And we made representation to ECOWAS. The ECOWAS, they had started a TRC process already. And we said, no, this shouldn't be. It shouldn't be a government-driven process.
Right.
Yes, so we drafted an alternative to what the government was doing. And in our alternative, we call for an independent process where there will be a committee established to vet members of this commission instead of the government appointing, members of the TRC. Yes.
Right.
So when we did this, we presented it to the interim assembly, and we lobbied them hard. We lobbied them, we lobbied ECOWAS, we lobbied the UN, and they all agreed. So a new TRC was started. And the way to constitute that TRC was to put a selection panel together, comprising the United Nations, comprising ECOWAS, comprising women groups, youth groups, religious groups, and the political parties. So when that TRC Act was passed, they constituted that body to select people who were qualified to be on the commission. So that process went through. ECOWAS was the chair of the selection committee. And they asked people to nominate and they asked people to apply. Right. I didn't apply, but somebody nominated me.
Right.
Yes. So they came down with a short list of about 250 persons. They went through the process, they dragged 100.
You mean 250 that wanted to be chair?
No, not chair, to be member of the commission.
Oh, okay.
Yes, there were 9 members of the commission.
Wow.
So the 250 was reduced to 150. My name again was amongst the 150. So they verified, they scrutinized the 150, they brought it down to 100. My name again was part of the 100.
Right.
So they did further scrutiny and they brought the 100 down to 50. My name again was part of the 50.
Wow.
Yes. When they brought it down to 50, they decided to reduce the 50 to 35.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And my name was there as part of the 35. Then they said this 35, we take only 15 from there and we submit 15 to the government. And so they went through the interviews. I was the last person to attend the interview because I was busy with my law practice and civil society. So they tried to find me. It was very difficult.
Right.
Then finally the ambassador of ECOWAS sent his people to my office and said he wanted to see me. It was very important. And when I went there, he said, we've doing this interview and we've been trying to find you, but we haven't gotten you. And it was like Thursday. Friday is the last day. We'll be happy if you can attend the interview. I said, okay, I will come. At what time? They said we close at 5. I said, okay, I will be there by 4:30. So, dramatically, I was the last person to be interviewed. And after my interview, they told me to leave them for 10 minutes and they will call me back in. I was called back in and they said, we have something to tell you. I said, what it is? We want to tell you that we were very impressed with the interview. And even though you are the last person we are interviewing, you are the first person we are going to accept.
Wow.
So we want to tell you, you have been accepted to work with this commission. And we'll forward your name to the president, the interim president. But one thing, were you accepted? We want to know before we send your name forward. I said, it depends on who you will give me to work with.
Mm-hmm.
If you give me people who I can work with, people who are credible, I will work with them. The ambassador said, look, I'm from Gambia. I'm here in Liberia to make peace. All these people around this table have their own respective things to do, but they are here to support the peace process.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to appeal to you to work with anybody we give you. but we want you to be on this commission. He said, I've shook hands with people who have killed human beings, their hands are bloody. I have no business being in Liberia to shake hands with bloody hands. But it's because of the peace. And you are a Liberian. So I'm encouraging you to accept this position. And we see how important it is for you to be there. That's why we have selected you and we called you specially to talk to you.
Wow.
Because getting you was difficult and you are busy and all of that. Everybody shook their head and said, yes, we are appealing to you to accept it. And that was a very important moment because I made up my mind, no matter what the character of people they gave me to work with, I will work with all of them for the good of Liberia. Yes. And that decision stuck with me throughout, with all the difficulties I had on the commission, the different characters, the games that were being played. I still had to work with people because I made that commitment, and I thank God that He has put me in the position to work with every Liberian. No matter what their persuasion, their rebel background, and all of that, it doesn't matter.
Were you comfortable?
Yeah.
Were you comfortable?
I had to be. It was the responsibility, and Liberia was the price. Saving Liberia was the price, so I had to accept it. And I would say yes, I was comfortable working with whosoever they gave me. I was not the one who was choosing the members of the commission.
The composition itself, with respect to the commission, how was it? I mean, was there something like the same way the interim government was formed, where you have warring factions on the board as well, or was the composition of the commission absolutely, nobody, that we know of who actually fought the war or actually aided the war would be part of it? How was it that?
Well, we had not done our investigation, so we didn't know everybody. But the panel did their investigation.
Right.
And so they had different personalities. Some of them were rebel sympathizers. Some of them were members of the old Cllr party government. Some of them were political activists of the 70s and the 80s. There were just very few of us who were new like me. Never had any political affiliation.
Right.
Didn't have time for any warring faction. And I was just an activist, purely an activist, never worked for government before. There were a few of us in that category, in fact 3. The commission had 4 women and 5 men.
Right.
And they had religious leaders who were part of it. And then the politicians, one politician, a female, another. Then they had lawyers. They even had a housewife, to diversify the composition, so that we can consider Liberia's problems from a diverse perspective and not just the politicians or the lawyer. There were 2 lawyers on the commission, including me. And that was the composition, basically civilians. But of course, we got to know later on that they had their own sympathy for warring factions.
All right.
And two of them, because of that sympathy, they didn't sign the final report. They felt that we shouldn't recommend punishment for warring faction leaders.
Right. We'll come to deal with that more in depth, but let me just reiterate and let you know that on the Max K talk show today, we have a former chairman of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of the Republic of Liberia, Councillor Jerome J. Verdier Jr. He's here, and we're talking about Mama Liberia. Councillor, let me ask you about because you end up later on dealing with Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. When was your first encounter with Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf?
Okay, I'm Jerome Verdier Senior. Not junior. I have the junior is
Okay,
my
but
son.
then I think
Yes.
you have to correct it. I'm taking it from the Facebook. Okay,
Yeah, I'm
RSS
senior.
senior. Okay,
Mhm.
good for that rectification.
It's an interesting encounter. I think it goes back to '95 when she had just come to the country and the country was preparing for elections. I don't know how I ended up in Madame Salif's compound. I can't remember now, but I remember George Weah was looking for me and he sent people at my law office and he said he wanted to see me. Then I said, where? Then they said, on the old, I used to live on the old road.
Mm-hmm.
They said he's on the old, he will be on the old road around where Scarborough School used to be. So I got in my car to drive there, and the guys led me into the compound of Madame Salif. So I went there. I said, what is this? This is Madame Salif's compound. I said, but where's the man who wants to see me? And he took me to George Weah. So I met him. The first question I asked, I said, what are you doing here? He said, Counselor, all these people, I just came to answer one call. All these people want me to be their vice. Every one of them who are running, they want me to be vice tenant bearer to them.
Mm.
But if I can be good to be a vice tenant bearer, why can I be a tenant bearer?
Okay.
I said, well, that's a question for you to consider, but in my mind, this is not a place for you to be, and I don't feel comfortable here, so I'm leaving. He said, but you soon be come, let's sit down a little bit and let her come. I said, okay. So I sat down, she came to the table and met all the people who were there with him and all of that. They started their political talk. As soon as she said she would serve refreshment, drinks, and biscuits and all of that, I told him, say, I'm leaving, and I left. That was my first, it wasn't a rare encounter because I just shook her hand and called her name, and I left. That's the first time I can remember coming very close to her and shaking her hand. But all of those things passed, and then coming down. The next time, I was in the States, and I got a message that Ellen was already elected president. And at her after her inauguration, she will want to commission the TRC.
Mm-hmm.
So the message to me was, I was on vacation, you need to cut short your vacation and come to the country.
Okay.
Because the president wants to install or inaugurate the commission. So Julie Bryan did all of the short listing. He selected all of us, the 9 commissioners out of the 15. Yes. So by the time election was going on, we were already named as potential commissioners of the commission.
Oh.
Yeah. Yes. So she didn't get to appoint us. The only thing she did was the official thing to inaugurate us into office. We took the oath of office under her authority, under her gaffer. So that was the next time I met her on that day.
How was that process? Given the fact that you went to her house and almost instantly you wanted to leave. You want to stay there because of George Weah. But then now, she's now commissioning the organization that you are head of. How was it?
It was a political, governmental process. It didn't matter to me. If I accepted to be a commissioner on the commission, I had to accept the authority of the governing authority, the authority of the president. So I worked under that authority. I submitted to that authority to the extent that was possible, to the extent that they didn't interfere with my independence or my operation. There were attempts to undermine our work. For 6 months, we were kept without pay. We had to work 6 months without pay. The government wasn't too happy because she couldn't figure out who were the members. She figured out a lot of people, but she couldn't figure me out. I know she asked a lot of questions. Who is Jerome Verdier? Where he's coming from? Is he a member of the Poorer Society? Is he a member of the Masonic craft and all of those kind of things? And I wasn't and never was a member of any of them, so I was a stranger. And how did I become chairman? The commissioners themselves, when I came from vacation, they got together, and that was the rule that we should select our chairperson. And on the day of election, majority of them voted me as chairman. That's how I became chairman. And we had to do it before the inauguration of Madame Cllr, because she told us that 1 week after her inauguration, she would put us into office. So all of that had to be done. And we met and bonded as members of the commission. We started drawing up rules on how to behave, how we should conduct the process. We took an entire week to review the TRC Act. And then we sat and had a workshop amongst ourselves on the TRC Act to know our responsibilities, our limitations, and all of that. So that's how the process went on. We were inaugurated by her. And on that day, I spoke on behalf of the commission, and I still remember a valid portion of my speech. I said, Madam President, congratulations for your election as president. Thank you for inducting us into office. But we will declare that we will do our work without fear or favor. And I think, my brother, God is the one who put that thing in my mind, because it stuck with me throughout.
Wow.
To have no fear, to fear nothing, and to favor nobody in the process. Yes, and that was our guarding post. And we did it.
Councillor, prior to whatever encounter you have with former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, and to the point that you assumed a responsibility wherein she have to actually commissioned and also officially launched the commission. Did you already knew her history also?
Well, I was a conscientious Liberian. I knew most remarkably of her encounter with Samuel Doe. They tried to, she was broken out of prison. I remember she was in the United States and she said Doe was an idiot. But I didn't know her association and linkages with foreign fashions. I knew she was very active whilst in exile. And to a large extent, I knew our politicians have not been very honest and patriotic to the country. So I had a dislike for dishonest and untrustworthy politicians. And I knew Madame Cllr was part of a political class that didn't mean well for the country. But that beside the point, we did an independent investigation, and it became clear that Madame Cllr supported, started, financed, resourced the MPFL. When we stumbled on those evidences, there were 3 witnesses who flew from the United States, paid their own way, and came to talk to the commission. And they didn't want any public hearing. They spoke to the commission confidentially. They came with information that opened our eyes, leads that led us into discovering all of what happened in the United States as it relates to the war and the MPFL.
Wow.
The whole history of the MPFL, how it operated, and all of that. And when we went to the United States, we double confirmed some of this information. That is why you see we went out of the country, because a lot of information was still out there. Even in the refugee camps that we went to, we went there to capture the experiences of people who fled the country. Why did they flee? What were their experiences? What do they know or what did they knew of the war? We captured all of this. We went to Minnesota where Liberians were conglomerating. We went to Atlanta where Liberians were active again. We even went, I think, there was a third state we went in the United States, then collected information. So when I see people playing with the TRC report, I just say, well, it's a report for posterity. They cannot destroy it. They will not implement it now, but it will be implemented tomorrow. A more conscious, dedicated, and patriotic government will come forward. A government that has compassion for the people of Liberia and fear God will one day come forward and those recommendations will be implemented. When the government ignore it, when Erin ignored the recommendations and her people went in and read the report and told her, you have to read this report. And that's why I would encourage every Liberian to try and read the TRC report. She took her time and went through the report, and then she wrote that the document was one of the best that ever come out of the country in recent times. He has recommendations for everything that she intends to do. Yes, it addresses all of the social, political, and economic problems in the country. If you look at the entire program of Madame Cllr for the second term when she was running, was all based upon the TRC recommendations. And if Mr. Weir can open his eyes and open his mind and not listen to what was told him, he will learn a lot from reading the TRC recommendations, and it's going to guide him into how he can establish a durable legacy for himself and reinstitute democracy and good governance in our country. All her programs were based upon the TRC recommendations. The Good Governance Commission, all of its programs after TRC was based upon TRC recommendations.
Councillor, given the information you shared over earlier, with respect to that invitation you received, and only to be met by Mr. George Weir at the residence of the former president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, and the encounter there between you people means that you must have been friends for long. How well do you know Mr. Weir?
That was also my first encounter with Mr. Weir. But we had an encounter subsequently when I was in the U.S. and young Liberians were clamoring for organizing a political party that we needed a new direction. I made 4 different trips to the U.S. in pursuit of that, holding meetings in different cities in America. So when I came home, then Mr. Weir had come home also. And then he sent an invitation to me to meet him at his house. That was long after the encounter. The first encounter was in Madame Cllr's house. Yeah. And I honored the invitation to meet. You know, my experience with George Weir goes back to football. I became an avid fan.
Right.
When I went on the field to watch Invisible 11 play against a team from Benin, and we defeated them in Morocco 3-0. And I think George Weir scored those 3 goals. My admiration for him grew from that point. And he was a great footballer. I'm not a very emotional person, but on that day I stood up on the field, I took off my cap, and I honored the scoring of those 3 goals and I said, this guy will be a great guy. And that was it. Our path never crossed again until he had political intentions and they invited me. And that evening after work, I went to Mr. Weah's residence. It was packed with distinguished people. Some of them have managed to have lasting personal relationships with. There were business people, there were youth, there were politicians. And they gave me an overwhelming standing ovation as I hit the door. Yes, it was very overwhelming. At the time, I had no idea why that gathering was there. I was surprised. It was like an ambush. And then they said, he started that Mr. Councillor, we invited you because we want you to join us and establish a political party. I said, but the movement to establish a new political party started from the US. I have been there 4 different times and we've been holding discussions, and those discussions are still ongoing. How are you linked with those discussions from the US? They said, oh, we are the same people, we are all Liberians. I said, okay, with that, then yes, I'm on board. I would like to do my best because it's something we have started, and this is the case, yes, that's fine. And I said I will link up with those in the US to let them know that this process has started by the initiative you have started. And it was good. We parted. We laid out a blueprint on how to do it, how to find an office and a headquarters and all of that. We did it. And then we started a process under my leadership of building a political party, which became the CDC. So I was involved from the very beginning, laying out the ideology, the political principles, drawing up a constitution, electing the first set of officials and all. Then there was an issue about leadership for the party and going forward. At that time, the party was not registered. So I said, look, we don't have a legal political party as yet, so the best thing is to wait, is to be patient, and let us register the party. Then when it's time for the party congress, then we can talk and do all the campaigning about leadership and all of that. But there were some people who were saying, but we need money. If George Weah can declare his intention now, we get a lot of money. I said, but it's about democracy. And we have to follow the democratic process. So it became a big disagreement between me and a lot of other members of the leadership as to what to do. At that time, the documents were already at the probate court, and it was to be released during the week, and awaiting signature.
Right.
And to my surprise, Mr. Weah left and went to the United States and declared his intention.
Wow.
So, yeah. So I called those who were on the ground and said, this is a negative influence. We cannot build a democratic institution like this. So I'm afraid I will have to leave. At that time, the document was ready to be picked up from probate court and needed my signature. I said, you can find another lawyer, but I'm out.
So you felt the process were hijacked?
Well, hijacked by whom? He was part of the whole system, but I felt the process was being derailed because to me, it was undemocratic. The party wasn't registered as yet, and maybe there were other potential people around. And he been very popular. if he steals a show from the rest of them, it puts him at an advantage. It means he starts to campaign long before other people.
Right, right.
Yes, so it puts him at an advantage, and the rest of the other people who were intending on contesting at a disadvantage.
Did you personally invest in the process financially?
Financially, it's been a long time. I don't know. I didn't even have money to support a political process, but I gave my best as it was required. We started from the grassroots, so everything that was required at the time, I was part of it. But I was the leader. I was leading the process.
We all that because you have to have meeting, and the meeting at least something have to come and whatsoever. So financially, all of you were responsible to push the bandwagon, isn't it? Or was it coming from one individual? Like, for example, in the case of the NPP, it was only in one man's pocket, which was Mr. Taylor.
No, the CDC was broad-based with a lot of youthful, energetic people. Geraldine Doe was there. There are several other people. What's this boy? Rafley, another guy who passed away. There were a lot of people. Because I was there, I brought in a lot of people too.
So Vavi.
So they contributed.
So let me get this, brother. And his Vavi was part of the establishment.
Yes.
Wow.
And his Vavi was there. If I'm not mistaken, I think I brought him over. So Ernest Vavi was.
Wow.
From the very beginning, yes. Yes, I remember him from there. He was. And very active, very outspoken. Oh, a very fine gentleman. I'm sorry he died so young. But he's a good guy. But when people decide, I was surprised when he started working at the Ministry of Finance. When I went there once and I saw him there, I knew he was working there. He was a young guy. I think he was prepared for that high-level job at the time. But anyway, he was there. I didn't monitor him or anything, but I was surprised that he was.
So, but then, let's come to this setting, because I'm trying to link it now with the, with your responsibility later on at the TRC, wherein at least trying to establish, what sort of people you, first of all, dealt with before getting to reach to the point that you have to continue dealing with them as far as leadership is concerned. Trying to understand now that these brief encounters brought some kind of connection between you, Mr. Weir, and somehow Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Now, with the issue of the TRC, Councillor Verdier, we are still somehow at a point where we don't even know where we are, where this document is. After the work was finished, also, how was it presented to Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf? Was it something that you people put in the post and went to her office, or was it formally done? How was it done?
We had a lot of strategies. Madam Sirleaf had her own people on the commission who were feeding her information. In fact, there was one commissioner who used to take a tape recorder to the office, and we got information that as we were having our meetings, Madam Sirleaf was listening in on our meetings because that commissioner had a recorder.
Wow.
Yes, but when we got the information, we disabled that. So Madam Sirleaf took interest in our work, but the extent to which she wanted to influence our work was impossible, because some of us had an integrity to lead an institution whose work would make a difference in our country. And so because of that, she didn't have her way or her sway with the commission. During the course of the commission's work, I met with Madam Sirleaf more than 10 times in her official capacity and in my official capacity.
Okay.
But There were no private meetings. So everything was official and very formal. We had a way of drawing out an outline or an agenda before going for a meeting. And once the agenda was exhausted, we were out. So, Madam Salif, at the time we were ready to present our report, we informed her. And she said she was not interested in receiving the report from us. So we should just convey the report. That is, use a courier service or we post it or whatsoever. And if anybody can recall, the commission was never dissolved.
Oh.
Because of our indifference to the work of the commission. The commission wasn't dissolved as normally as commissions would be. And we had to struggle, I think, 2 or 3 years to get our outstanding remunerations. You know, that was the nature of the relationship. So, under the Act, we were to present a copy of the report to her and to the National Legislature.
Okay.
To make it official, we met the deadlines according to the TRC Act. And we presented up to, I think it was 64 copies or 15 copies for each committee at the National Legislature. And then we packaged a set of the reports, more than 9 pieces, and sent it to Madam Salif's office. But there was no ceremony to retire the commission. There was no ceremony to receive our reports. Nothing of the kind.
Wow.
In fact, the day we had scheduled to meet with her and present the report, she chose to leave the country.
No way.
Yes, she left the country. But we weren't interested in officialdom to say, let's postpone it, and wait when she comes, then we go and present it. No, the report was finished. She had even sent other links to us, telling us to delay the issuance of the report. Yes, there are issues to be resolved. We should delay the issuance of the report. We said, no, we are tired of this work. We have done our work. We are now on the 15th draft of the report. The report has to go. She even sent the ambassadors, all the ambassadors in the country said they wanted to meet with us. And they wanted to know what we were doing, what the contents of the report, and if we could postpone.
Right.
Yes, and there was a trick in postponing because the commission had deadlines that were already legislated. It was law that the report has to be presented at this time. So the law wasn't changed, it was there, and if you decide to present it at a later date, you'll be fulfilling your legal mandate. So we refused. Unfortunately, Madam Salif didn't receive from our hands the report. Just as she put us in office, she should have been there to receive our work, but she didn't. And if I may add about that report, that report is for the people of Liberia. We gave our heart and our soul to it. We were very earnest. God blessed us. We went through it. Despite all of the difficulties, we completed it. The wisdom to put that report together came from God, and we are proud of it. We can never disown it. If only Liberians, especially the government, Ellen is gone. She went through the report, she took some points out of it, and she made them her national programs. If you check her last statement in reporting to the legislature on the TRC report, you will see what she had to say there. It is comprehensive, my brother. We went around the country and we spoke to everybody. We didn't close our hearts or our doors to anybody. Perpetrators, victims alike. So the vision for a new Liberia was captured in all of that. Yes, the government is struggling with dual citizenship. The past government did and this government did. Well, it's right in the report. The report outlines what should be done that would lead to dual citizenship. And it gives some justification as to why there should be dual citizenship. But because it's in the TRC, so it's bad, and they don't want to read, they don't want to understand. It's a national document for the people of Liberia. It is not our personal document. And so we didn't put our personal feelings and emotions into it, no. We're objective in making the recommendations, and we're based upon our findings from talking to Liberians of all walks of life. And that document is very much relevant as it was 10 years ago. It is still relevant today. And it is alive as far as Liberia is concerned. That's why we hail the efforts of people like you who grasp the vision and know that there should be justice.
Councillor,
justice, where are we going?
Councillor, let me pick on two individuals in response to the TRC reports, because to me, quite personally, I think first of all, Liberians through governments should commend each and every one of you that actually sat on that commission. I have a copy of the full report. It's more than 300 pages. I follow the trends from where, as far as those documentation are available is concerned, from every point you people went to meet our people and interacted with them. Now you work assiduously, you put in so much time and everything. It came to a point that they are not paying you, and you say, I'll still go to work. This is for Liberia. Now there came a point that your own fellow Liberians, those that's supposed to actually drive all through and make sure that this particular document come to a realization by virtue of making sure that the recommendations in there are implemented. They came up with different statements. One is Prince White Johnson, and the other is the current president of Liberia, President George Weah. And I'm going to quote them. Mr. Johnson referred to the TRC, this document, this huge document, referred to it as a piece of trash. Mr. George Weah, on return to Nigeria, when he was asked about the TRC document, or the call for the establishment of War Crimes Court, the full implementation of the TRC, he responded by asking us, the citizens, whether we want to go that route or we want reconciliation. You put too much time in it, and as a patriotic citizen of Liberia, what is your thought, or what are your thoughts on these two noble individuals? I will refer to them as noble anyway.
Yeah, since they are government officials, they may deserve to be called that way. Firstly, my brother, what is a trash? You know, if you check all media, the website, since I left the work of the TRC, with all the criticism, I don't respond. I don't react to them. Because I believe people are free. That's an intellectual exercise. People should express themselves the way they feel and be candid about it. We are not a suppressive institution that will penalize people for speaking freely. No, we don't even have that capacity. So I just feel people, the document is alive, it's not going to die, nobody's going to kill it. People should express themselves the way they want to. But listening and reviewing everything that has been said, especially negative about our work, there are two things that stand out. I've come to realize that if people criticize and don't want the TRC, they either have interest in the outcome of the TRC recommendations, or they have fear.
Okay.
Those are the two things that drive people to go against the TRC. So when they speak, you analyze them from that perspective. Can this person be afraid of something? Or does this person have an interest in ensuring that perpetrators go free without justice, or ensuring that our country be a land of impunity? In the past, the True Party government invested in ignorance, disease, and poverty to continue in power for more than 100 years. Now we have political leaders on the scene who want to be beneficiaries of corruption and impunity. So they want impunity to thrive. If I hold Ellen Johnson Sirleaf accountable today, before I leave, or when I leave, I will be held accountable also. Or if I prosecute Prince Johnson will bring war. That's fear. And then that is interest. Prince Johnson is categorized by the TRC as the most notorious perpetrator. You think he would like that report? Prince Johnson alone in the report killed more presidents than his entire faction combined. If you put Model and the IMPF together, the number of atrocities, number of persons he killed, Prince Johnson alone has killed people than those two factions. And most of his killings were in public. That's why he is celebrated as the most notorious perpetrator.
And rewarded as well.
Yes. So, one day he wants to report, another day he doesn't want it. Can we be bothered with that kind of person? He's a Liberian, an outspoken figure, but he's conflicted, just as Madam Sirleaf was. If we had not made recommendations that affected Madam Sirleaf and that defines her interest, she would have implemented the TRC recommendation. As they were suggesting to us, we should only make recommendations against those who held arms and were known to be warring faction leaders. And we said no. Liberia is a different case. The conflict in Liberia goes deep, and so we have to go to the root. And the recommendations has to reflect the magnitude and the nature of the conflict. And that is why we have political recommendations and we have criminal recommendations. Mr. Weir, he now has an interest. He's now operating on the behalf of Madam Sirleaf. That's his interest, to protect her interest. And he said it, I listened to his interview, when he said Madam Sirleaf and her family has to be protected. The interview was done in Ghana. It's all right. You know, but he's not doing any good to the country and not doing any good for his own image. If he's not careful, he will leave power without any legacy. And his legacy will be like corruption.
The buildings are there.
Yes.
Plenty buildings.
Yes. And he'll be very infamous for that. You know, that's nothing but misrule. You know, so they have no comprehensive response to the demand for justice.
So
they told the UN Human Rights Committee that they would have responded in 3 months. It's more than a year now.
Yeah.
They have no comprehensive response. And I can tell you, what it tells me is that there's nobody in that government that has the mind and heart of the country to be able to comprehensively speak on behalf of the country and address the issue of justice. What are the arguments? You say you want reconciliation. Is reconciliation different from justice? Then you don't understand what reconciliation is. What Shimas used to sing and say he wants what? Rehab, restorative justice.
Yeah.
He doesn't want punitive justice. They are all part of the process of reconciliation.
Do you feel disappointed given the fact that this is the same man that was once upon a time appointed by Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf as peace ambassador for Liberia, which of course many of us didn't see what fruit that yielded or so. And reaching to the point now that this document is now on his desk, do you feel somehow perhaps disappointed that such statement will come from him, even though he served him as even ambassador for UNICEF? And during 2004, accordingly, he even called for war criminals to be punished as well. I mean, this sudden change, are you worried that your work perhaps is going to take a very long time to come to reality?
My brother, building Liberia is going to take some time. To everything, there's a time and a season. Disappointment is not one of my familiar words. I'm a child of God. I live by faith. God has protected me through a lot. Everything we're doing for ourselves is just in vain. God is the arbiter of our destiny. He knows our end. He knows how that report is going to be implemented. And I'm very confident it's going to be implemented. And the process is on what you guys are doing, advocating, what our brothers are doing at the US. They did it before at the United Nations. All of that is going to bear fruits. The TRC recommendation is the #1 agenda for Liberia now. Everywhere they go, justice is the #1 agenda. They can dodge it. And eventually, it will come. The Liberian people deserve justice. All these people didn't die or shouldn't die for nothing. Their blood is still crying out for justice. And I can tell you, I so honestly believe until we get the issue of reconciliation and justice straightened up, the country will continue to experience what it's going through. During the war, people suffered, but the suffering during Charles Taylor's time was more than what people experienced during the war. Charles Taylor's time, there was hardship, yes, but the suffering during Ellen Johnson's time, tenure, was more than what people went through during Charles Taylor. Yes, Ellen's misrule brought a lot of hardship and corruption to the country, but what Liberians are experiencing now is more than what they experienced during Ellen. You know what it tells me? We are bringing a curse and punishment upon ourselves when we do not address the issue of justice.
Wow.
And the punishment is going to continue until we have far-sighted leaders who can see that there's a need to bury the past, there's a need to bury the ghost of the past, there's a need to wash the land of all the blood that was spilled. You know that God loved David, right? David was like the apple of his eye. But you know why David didn't build the temple? Because his hands had too much blood. God told him, as much as I love you, you cannot build my temple. Your son will build the temple because you have too many blood on your hands. And our country will not be built when the innocent blood are still crying for justice. We have to turn around. We have to see our faults. For now, the nation is a cursed nation. Because of that. It's cursed for several reasons, but because of that.
It's a cursed nation.
Yes. Because the way we steal public resources. Look at Monrovia today. The dirt is all around. Soon there will be outbreaks here and there, and then we wait for the international community to come. That's a curse. How do we treat the old people in Liberia? Think about it. How do we treat the old people in Liberia? That's a curse. How do we treat the invalid in our midst? The handicaps. It used to be group of 77. Think about Liberia and see if there's any program to cater to them. The less privileged members of our society, those who are physically or mentally deranged and cannot manage, how do we treat them? That's a curse. When we don't take care of the least amongst us, how do we treat public resources?
All right.
Resources.
His name, let me just remind our listening audience and those are following us. His name is Councillor Jerome Verdier, Jerome J. Verdier Jr. Senior. Sorry, he's our studio guest. In fact, he's a former chair of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of the Republic of Liberia. They are behind the document that we are pushing right now for a full implementation, which is the TRC report. So it's an honor to have him here today, sharing with us everything mostly about the TRC and the road to peace and reconciliation in Liberia as well. Councillor, I know that sometime I've spent we've had enough time with you, but not as much as we want anyway. But we got to let you go out somewhere, or maybe come back another time. But Councillor, where we are now, I know pluralism, according to the English word, it took shape in Liberia, and governing is now questionable. In a quest of seeking true justice for Liberia, do you think Mr. Weah will ever change his mind to say, well, I'm not going to go back to what I said in 2004, that I want all war crimes, I want war criminals to be punished? Or you think he's still going to find it difficult so long Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is around?
Well, I can hope that President Weah can commit himself to the full implementation of all the recommendations of the TRC, because it is a law that says that. And I can also hope that he will adopt measures to improve governance in the country. The reports I'm getting are very terrible. And I can only hope that he will realize that he is betraying the Liberian people, those who elected him, the majority. I hope he can realize that he is popular because he plays good soccer and Liberians like soccer. And it is up to him to be popular because of his stewardship of the country and its resources. I can only hope that he can have a change and not to be misled, or deceived by former President Sirleaf. I know all that she did to make him president. I know the agreements that they had, but some of them made the argument it was a political decision to get to power, and when they are in power, they will do the right thing. I can only hope that they get to do the right thing. It is important that we do right for Liberia. The country and its people have suffered too long. Why should simple thing like cleaning the city? I worked with Moria City Corporation before. It's a tax a dedicated leader can implement. But what's going on is just corruption, taking public money. If you eat public money, it's going to run your stomach later. It's a cursed money. Let's go back to the history of Liberia. I wish I could tell them. Look at our presidents who wantonly use public money for themselves. Where are they? What happened to them?
Yeah.
And John Weah is young. He needs a reputation and a legacy. Otherwise, when he leaves office, he will be forgotten like all other presidents. No legacy, no foundation. Putting your image around the country and building statues for yourself, that's not accomplishment, that's not achievement. Calling yourself a doctor. Who wants to be called a doctor? Those who go to school and they are called doctor, they don't even crave being called a doctor because they know what they have.
I have my former professor here, a I remember once upon a time, email address. I addressed him as Doctor. So he was so furious. He came by me. Don't ever call me that Doctor.
Yeah. He's right. It's an achievement.
Yeah, it is.
He to transform into something good. He doesn't mind being called any other thing else. He knows what he is. For Samuel Doe was a doctor. Charles Taylor was a doctor. Charles Taylor was Doctor also. Eddie Johnson Staley became doctor. Then George Verdier wants to follow suit. That's the path to honor development. That's the path to ignorance. That's the path to naked arrogance. Look at the leaders of countries that have improved and that they are developed. Do they crave for accolades and titles?
No.
It tells you that our president is bereft of what is required. But we have to pray for our country and we have to pray for him.
Now, finally, Councillor, finally, before I let go of, or we let go of you for today, we wish we could have you for more longer. Before we let go of you, the image of the country is paramount, especially for the benefit of the people. The image outside there is very, very important. Today, from the inception of the issue surrounding the $16 billion, coupled with the story behind the $25 million. However, these monies were spent. The image of Liberia is now tinted. What are your thoughts and what are your advice to our authority?
That's why you've been calling for compassionate leadership, servanthood leadership, and God-fearing leadership. If you fear God, you will not accumulate wealth for yourself to the disadvantage of the people or the majority. You cannot suffer your people so that you and your family can benefit. That is immoral. You cannot convert the resources of 4 million people to your personal use. I understand Madam Seri left up to over 150 million US dollars in the foreign reserve. I understand Mr. Weah and his government has taken everything out. There is only less than 5 million in there. That tells you our economy will collapse very pretty soon. Okay? Why? What is that mentality? For greed, you want material things, you want to surround yourself with a lot, you want to be extravagant. All those ministers of government who are traveling business class, first class, when they were using their own money to travel, did they buy first class tickets or business class? So what makes you think that you have to take the people money to use it in that way to satisfy your personal ego or aspirations? That is wrong. And if they fear God and know that He said they work for us, they wouldn't do what they are doing. And if we hold them accountable, they will not do what they are doing. And that is why they don't want to hold any other person before them accountable, because they realize that we have to eat it free. Some people said, this is our time. What does our time mean? Our time to steal? Our time to pillage the resources of the country? That is our time. I can only pray that George Weah, President Weah, His Excellency, Dr. Weah, we have a change of heart and a turnaround, because our country is going in the wrong direction. And he's a young man, he's representing our generation. It will be a shame and a disgrace to all of us if he fails. And if he continues this way, The same hustling way. It's a hustler government. It's gangster's paradise. If he continues like this, he will definitely fail. He needs a turnaround. You know, I also moved that he was becoming president. I wrote a letter outlining to him the challenges and the priorities of the Liberian people. And all of the major issues, corruption, human rights, justice, impunity, all of those. Those are the issues that matter most for turning around the negative image of Liberia you spoke of. If he can turn around his lifestyle, his style of governance, and focus on the issues of the ordinary man, he will do well. And he's a man from a very humble beginning. Compassion, he should have compassion for his people, for his poor people, from whence he came. He can't tell me in 2 years he has forgotten. That's very sad. And if he has forgotten where he's coming from, he shouldn't forget about history. Otherwise, he will repeat history. And if he's forgotten where he's coming from, you have to go back and repeat that past. It will haunt him.
Wow.
You know.
All right.
So I can hope he will just tread a more cautious.
Yeah, just to pass on information, question coming here for you, but I think another brother provided the answer. The counselor is in the one at the LACC. I think it's your brother, right?
At where?
LACC?
That's my brother, not me. It's my brother.
Okay, yeah, because Charles E. King was asking question relative to that, but I think somebody also provided the answer. Not him, but his brother. Okay, but Chief, Councillor, just now, since we for today we're going to wrap up, but hopefully by the grace of God we will, ask of your time again once again, so we can discuss issues relative to Mama Liberia. Do you think is there any prospect of recovery very soon? Some people say stay too soon, 14, 15 months going into 8, that the chance to stay be given, we should stay. For some of us that are advocating and asking too many questions, we should shut up and just look at the process going on. And I hope
there's great hope for Liberia. I'm not giving up on Liberia. There's great hope. And even if the government is very, very serious, if they can consolidate resources, you know that domestic revenue has increased. The government is collecting more money than it did last year or the year before. If the government can consolidate resources, set their priorities right, streamline government spending, take efforts to reduce government. There are too many people in government payroll who are contributing nothing to the national economy or the GDP of the country. So this government can begin to institute some austerity measures with a determination to turn the country around, the economy around. In the next 10 months, things will change. But we can only hope. We are not the governors, we are not the masters. And I can pray that they will put the interest of the Liberian people first and see themselves as servants employed by the people. So they are working for the people and don't see themselves as masters and lords because they are riding big cars and all of that. No. With that change of mentality and with that change of socio-economic policy to consolidate resources and apply them to the priorities of the country and not applying them to their own ending needs for lust and greedy passion, the country will turn around in another 10 months.
All right,
but if something like that happens in another 10 months, we could see the worst.
All right. All right, let me take this one here from one of our viewers, Metusula W2. He said, Councillor, from your perspective, how you see the impeachment proceedings and what it meant for Liberia. Actually, I never wanted to go that right actually, but yeah, since he's the viewer, Councillor, and you want to throw light on his question?
It is wrong. It is immoral. It is illegal. That is a political game played by the executive, and they are setting a trap for themselves. Justice Janet and I have a history, and that history started from, I think if you realize it's listed in the TRC report.
Yeah, it is.
It started from his appointment by Madame Salif. I came up publicly and I objected. And I went out of my way to have a private meeting with then Councillor Janet and said, I beg you, please don't accept it. And you know why you shouldn't accept it. He said, my brother, this is a political season. I will take the job. I said, okay, that's the most you can be. It's political. He said, yes, I represent an institution. And the institution have agreed that I would take this assignment, so I'm not alone, so I will take it. I said, okay. That being said, that doesn't mean I will support what they are doing. What they are doing is illegal. Firstly, the grounds they have for his removal doesn't conform with the grounds in the Constitution. So the very basis is illegal. Secondly, they started that process without any impeachment rules and regulations or laws. That alone undermines everything they are doing. And I made that position public a long time ago in the Front Page Africa, that they should stop it. It was wrong. He's a sitting official, high official of government. You don't bring your tricks, you don't bring your viciousness into the governance process because you want to satisfy a political end or a selfish gain. No, it's wrong, and it's wrong for the country. When justice is undermined and blinded that way, it is not good. The wrong precedent is being set. To correct it will take a lot to correct it. Otherwise, that precedent will take root into our judicial, legal, and rule of law system, and it will undermine it. It is wrong, it is immoral what the government is doing. They have no legitimate grounds for removing Justice Kabila Janet. No legal, no legitimate grounds, no moral grounds. All the grounds that they have mentioned cannot hold water. They are flimsy and foolish and nonsensical. It just tells us we don't have a government. We have a bunch of gangsters who are hustling, and they will stop at nothing, even if it means killing each other. You see what is happening? 2 persons have died from the bank. Those kind of things bring more curse upon the man. It casts a dark shadow over them. And if we continue, the government will not succeed as much as we are praying for God to show us mercy. But you know, it's the leader we put there. It's the leader we say we want. If God wants to bless Liberia, you have to bless Liberia through the leader. If the leader is surrounded by darkness, how will the blessings come to the people? Just more suffering. And the Bible says that when the righteous is in power, the people are happy, they rejoice. But when the wicked take over, there's more suffering, there's more pain and groaning by the people. And if we continue like this, the suffering and hardship is going to increase. But Liberia is a great country. Liberia will do well. There's great hope for Liberia. There will be a Liberia after Ellen. There will be a Liberia after George Weah. And there will be a Liberia where we will have God-fearing, astute leaders who are characterized by compassion for their people and who know that they have to serve the people in order to serve God faithfully.
Councillor, I mean, without much ado, we want to let me appreciate you on behalf of each and every one of us that have been following the show today, the Max Kpakio show. We highly appreciate you, and we want to commend you very, very much for taking up your time, giving us this length of time today. For the first time, actually, probably on all of the platforms on social media. I'm sure this is your first time interacting with us. We do sincerely apologize as well for most of you that were sending in your comments or so. I have my own problem here, and because the councillor and I couldn't be linked directly via the live video, for me to transcend your to actually read your question or view them it has been difficult for me. But I want to apologize and also say thanks to all of you. Councillor, I mean, for today,
yes, my brother.
Since we are about to finish for today, anything last you want to share with us, especially for some of us that are right now on the vanguard of sacrificing and trying to push for this establishment of war and economic crime school for Liberia and the full implementation of the TRC. We are going in Liberia on the 5th of April to go and present some statements and petitions to government and government's representation in Liberia. What piece of advice do you have for us and for those that we're going to meet, including ambassadors and the president and the government of Liberia?
I would first just say thank you for hosting me, and thanks to your audience who have sat patiently with us, and urge all of us not to despair. We should be hopeful. There is good and a lot of good for Liberia. You know, difficult times. We went through the worst already. What we went through with President Weah is not the worst. We're going through the war, and I believe we have seen the worst. And because we have had an experience, we deserve better. That is why we are craving and clamoring for more. There will be justice in Liberia, except if we don't want Liberia to have a turnaround and be a good, prosperous nation. That's what I want for Liberia, and that's why I'm confident that there will be justice, the court will be established, perpetrators will be brought to book, and reconciliation will prevail in our country. I will appeal to you all who are in the vanguard to please continue. Make the sacrifices that are necessary, that our voices will be heard. There is a time for everything, and it is time for justice to reign in Liberia. We can see that people are more inclined to doing evil than doing good. People care more about corruption than protecting the heritage of our nation and the well-being of posterity. It is wrong. Too many bloods have been shed in Liberia. Liberians have suffered too many wrongs. The government in Liberia is too predatory. They eat everything and they leave nothing for the poor people. That's a curse. It is time for Liberians to start thinking of what kind of leadership or leaders they want. We first thought that celebrity was leadership. We realized from Charles Cllr knew that celebrity is not leadership. And if Charles Cllr wasn't enough, we had another celebrity leader in President Sirleaf. And we see that celebrity is not leadership. If that wasn't enough, President Sirleaf ensured that we have George Weah, another celebrity. And it is clear from just his first year that he's on the wrong path. The Bible commands us to pray for our leaders. Let us pray that he will have a turnaround, that he will have a change of heart. The heart of man is in God's hands. If we cry to God sincerely, God will bring us the leaders that we deserve and the peace and development that we crave. Liberia is still a very good country. With all that has happened, with all the mismanagement and poverty, Liberia is still a uniquely good country, and we can make it better.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, sir. Councillor, thank you. Like I said, thank you so much. And we want to wish you God's blessing as well. As you, and you and your family. And we can't wait as well to for the proper atmosphere to be created where you'll go back to Liberia to help us move the country forward. Thank you very much, and do have yourself a pleasant weekend.
Thank you, Max. I appreciate it, and God bless.
Okay.
Oh, Daddy, what shall we do?
What shall we do?
Oh, Daddy, what shall we do?
What shall we do?
Oh, Daddy, what shall we do?
What shall we do?
Ladies and gentlemen, we want to say thank you plenty. Thank you for thanking me too. Thanks for being there. That's what we're here. We create a platform not to insult other people, but to educate. We always feel happy to invite individuals that we can learn from, individuals that can actually direct us. Thanks to our studio guest on the Max K Talk Show today, Councillor Jerome J. Verdier Sr., former chairman of the TRC Commission of the Republic of Liberia.
What shall we do?
Huge insight today as well. Huge insight. No, we got a lot from him as well. Whatever it is, the interest is Mama Liberia. We just hope, like he said, lastly, at least our leaders will one day change and put Liberia first and the people of Liberia. How we come to the end of the show today. I want to say thank you so much for joining in. Of course. From next Monday, we'll be taking a break. And probably we'll be back somewhere around May. We'll be back later tonight for the program, the Print News Review. But from my end on the Max K Talk Show today, I want to say thank you very much. God bless you. May God bless the continent of Africa. And indeed, may God bless Mama Liberia. I want to wish you a pleasant weekend. Bye-bye for now.